you don't want your team to ever say, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Like once they're starting to say that, you're like, am I giving off the vibe somehow that they're bothering me? And you've been applying that to your office, but I thought that's so relevant to our marriage that I can talk to you and not to say, honey, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. And I think along the way, you're like, yes, this is an interruption maybe, but you're not bothering me. I know I can call you, text you to an extent, and you're available to me.
In all of the good times and even the trials, through tears and through laughter, yeah, I know that I'll smile when I think of you. Smile for the things you do. Smile, God gave me you. You are a reason I smile. Yeah.
This is Behind Our Smiles.
Pursuing connection.
And finding joy.
Even in the struggle. And welcome back to another episode of the Behind Our Smiles Marriage Podcast. We are Joe and Tara Buchanan.
Yeah, we're so glad that you're here. We love hanging out with you. And one of our absolute favorite parts of the podcast is what makes you smile about your husband or wife. Would love to hear from you if you want to share about what makes you smile. You can do that. Simply email us, Tara, T-A-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com. Today we're hearing from Julie about her husband, Garen. She says about Garen that I know when I get home from work, he will be there with a big hug and a kiss. Then listen to me decompress from my day without judgment or complaining. What a cool thing to have said about you, Garen. Thank you, Julie. And again, if you want to share what makes you smile about your husband or wife, just simply email us, Tara, T-A-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com.
Because when you share about what makes you smile about your husband or wife, it makes us smile in response. It just kind of gets catchy.
Sometimes it makes Tara laugh in a good way.
I like messages that make me laugh, and I like messages that make me cry sometimes. It's kind of sweet. But I love what Julie shared this week because that is a beautiful gift to give to your wife or to your husband, just to say, when I come home, I can just sort of like let it all out. Just we use that word a lot around here too, Joe, like the decompressing part. Like now for us, or at least for me, I like to decompress verbally. You not so much, but that is a wonderful way to make your wife smile.
Yes.
Is to let her decompress without judgment or complaining. He's a seasoned husband.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that, but I'm not sure. So we're talking about husbands, especially last week and this week. And Joe, you're leading the way this way, talking to men and how to be managers of their marriage.
Yeah, managers with a capital M-A-N at the beginning.
Got to be a man.
Being a man of your marriage. And we talked about this idea that good management skills are good management skills. So if you can lead a team and you apply those to your home, many times you will see some good results.
At least that's what I've seen. I've seen as you have grown as a manager at work, some of those same skills transfer well to a marriage. So last week, our 2 Ds that we talked about was dealing with your own junk. And that means as a leader, if you have a toxic leader, you have like a toxic team. It's hard to like separate the effect of one person on a team. And as you have dealt with your own junk, you have made our marriage better versus giving all your junk to me.
Yeah.
That's would be bad. And then second was defining reality and saying, hey, where are we exactly at? What's going on? Defining the problem well so that you can move forward in your marriage. And Joe, I really appreciate the way you are good at defining reality in our marriage and in our family and helping us to move forward in a healthy way.
I appreciate that. And most of the time it's actually tapping into you. And saying,
defining reality. My wife might know the answer better to this problem.
Yes. So where is our marriage?
It's all like agreeing on the reality. So we went with like the D theme, as you shared with men at a conference lately, and the ways to become a good manager. So defining reality, dealing with your junk. And number 3 was kind of a stretch, but I think it's really, really significant.
Well, it's got a D in it. Door is open.
Yes.
So basically what we wanted to say was open door policy.
And go ahead with your open door policy.
Yeah.
And again, I learned this from you because this is something that you practiced a lot in your office. The idea of, hey, it's very important that my door's open to my team and people who need to talk to me as manager.
Yeah, so we do one-on-ones. These are regularly scheduled things that we do just to check in and make sure everybody is doing well. They don't have any questions or things that they're wrestling through. Right, concerns. And one of the questions that I ask a lot too is, hey, what's brought you a lot of joy? Or what is a pain point in the job that you're doing? And that's important to ask at home too. Like, hey, honey, what has brought you joy lately in the tasks that you're doing or the things that you're doing in our marriage? And what is a pain point? The other part of that equation is that the door is open. So if someone's got a question or they need something, I don't want to stall their efficiency or their ability to get the work done because they can't find me or talk to me.
Well, one of the things I think we were learning and growing this idea of, okay, how do I become a good leader here is this. You don't want your team or your employees to ever say, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Like once they're starting to say that, you're like, am I giving off the vibe somehow that they're bothering me? And you've been working on that or applying that to your office, but I thought that's so relevant to our marriage that if you're at home, I also love the feeling that I can talk to you and not to say, honey, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. And I think along the way, you're like, yes, it's an interruption maybe, but you're not bothering me. And I think I just love that that's a good thing in our marriage, that I know I can call you, text you to an extent, and you're available to me.
Yeah, and to be interruptible, is a reflection of love, right?
Yes.
It's a reflection of value to the other person because I think research shows that it takes like 7 minutes when you're interrupted to get back to where you were in the task that you were in. But I think if your husband or wife is saying things like, I don't want to bug you, or I'm sorry I'm bugging you, I think that's a conversation piece that probably needs to happen because somewhere along the line, a vibe has been given off. I remember in my first few years, actually, of my newer leadership role, I still would have people say, I'm so sorry to bug you. And so I think a most common phrase for me was, you're not bugging me. You're not bugging me. Just reestablishing or reinforcing that idea that I am available.
Well, and you go back to this. That is literally like your job.
Yeah, right.
Like the reason you're here, the reason any organization has a manager is to assist the people who are doing the work on the ground.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute, if you're not available, you're not even doing your job. Now you have other parts of your job that don't necessarily directly apply to your team, but primarily you're here to take care of your team. And same with at our home. Like, yes, at home you have things you're doing for the family, but ultimately speaking, you're there to be a dad and to be a husband. That's part of it. Like, you can't neglect that part of it. And so I just love the fact that you've learned that way. Now, granted, Joe, we talked about the fact that the last few years you've become a manager by trade in an office, but for many years you worked from home. And so you didn't necessarily manage a team of coworkers, but you were at home with a whole bunch of people who lived with you, and you had a separate office. And we always tried to respect the fact that you were at work and you had an office and you were doing important business. I mean, you were doing important work. But because you were there, I like to interrupt you. And there were times that probably interrupted you too much, not respecting the boundaries of the work you had to do as in your role in radio. But I did like that the kids could knock on the door and say, Daddy, I just want to show you the Lego guy I made. And you would say, okay, come on in. I got a couple minutes. Let me see the Lego guy you made. And then, honey, I got to get back to work. But I think you did learn some of that open door policy from working at home and learn to say, sometimes my kids just want to show me their Lego guy or show me their picture. And I never want to tell them, no, I'm not available to you. Or even then when big things came up, sometimes big things came up in the home, like, emergency, I'm calling, I'm calling down for help. And you're always like, yes, if there's an emergency, I'm here to help.
Yeah, and I think through the years of that, we also established like, hey, at lunch, Dad's going to be available, because there were also meetings during the day where they knew,
couldn't interrupt.
You just could not interrupt, and they were always respectful of that. Having an open door policy is really important, and I know when we were doing Reengaged Marriage Ministry, one of the big things we learned early on is that you don't have to be profound. It's really more important to just be present, to be available, and to be willing to listen.
I love that, the power of availability. Again, no one's 100% available every moment of the day. It's obvious. But to have the people around you say, for the most part, they're available. And I know our kids have said that about you, Joe. Like, even when you're in an office, there's an idea of going, you're available and you want to serve the people that you love that mean the most to you, your family, your friends, and of course, your coworkers. So thank you for being part of that. But that's such a huge part of being a good manager, is being available. And as a husband saying, I'm here for you. What do you need? I'm interruptible.
And it's something that we're always growing in and being able to do better as we learn.
We'll say that too. But I'm just here to compliment you.
Because really, one of the things I think early on in our marriage is I think I could have bought into this idea that there was a shortcut. Like you could kind of shortcut it, but you really can't. You can't shortcut it. You can't say that you're going to have an open door policy and then not be willing to have an open door or to listen. You've got to be able to to know that you're going to invest time in that investment time. Like I think about home, back to what you were saying, when the kids interrupted me, what they didn't realize is that that's going to add 15 minutes to my workday. But that's so worth it in that moment to say, hey, this is an incredible privilege to be raising these children or to be leading this team. This is a privilege. And at the end of that interruption, you're like, man, I'm so glad they interrupted me.
Well, we look back as time goes by and you're going, my kids don't come bursting into my office with a Lego guy that they made. Like those days are over. But I'm really glad that those little things that meant a lot to them, I'm like, I want to be a part of that. But I think to take it from the other angle, as you grew as a husband, Joe, and you became more interruptible and you said, yes, I'm available to help you, I think it gave me a sense of trust in you and also helped me to put the boundaries up too, going, okay, I know that if I knock on his door, he's going to say, come in, what do you need? But I thought, okay, no, he will. Is this really important enough to interrupt him right now? Like, just because this idea popped into my head and I want to tell him right now, do I really need to? So I think the more trust you build by being available, it helps me to understand too how often to interrupt you. And have respect for that. And I think it goes with your teammates too, going, hey, we know that if it's important, he will drop what he's doing and help us.
Yeah.
If it's just totally not important, maybe I can wait 5 minutes, So it does go both ways.
Something else is going to come up. So let's just group those together.
Yes, let's group the questions together. Let's show the Lego guy and the picture and the cookie, So there is a little boundaries in terms of crashing into someone's time. But I think that building that trust to say, I am available to you and my heart is how can I help you?
And you can't, and I think this is back to what I was saying about the shortcut earlier. You can't just say the door is open. You have to live it because actions will speak louder than the words. But having a door open to your wife and your kids, your husband and your kids, extremely important.
Because even though some of those things that we bust open for may not be important, so you get frustrated, but I think in time you realize if you close the door to the silly things, then suddenly the big things happen and they don't call for that. You call people that are going to open the door for you, in trouble. So that was our D for door open. What's our fourth D?
Yeah, it's dream with your team and your wife or your husband. Being willing to dream together. And this is something we had to work on through our marriage. I think back to our second episode, that's a great idea. That won't work, right? There were so many times where one of us would bring a dream to the table, and I was more guilty of this than you, Tara, but I would immediately be working it out in my brain about how that wasn't going to work instead of really hearing you out and pursuing that idea, but being willing to open the door to dreaming. And at work, as a leader, one of the things that I do, I encourage dreaming, number one, but number two, we get off campus at least once a year and we go and we set a whole day aside and I ask the team to prepare for that day, to bring ideas to the table. And then we have certain exercises that we do and then we have incredible discussion, but we talk about, okay, what is working is a little bit a part of that. What isn't? And then boom, what is the passion? What are we really passionate about? What do we want to see as it aligns with our mission and our vision? What could the next year, the next 2 years look like?
And I think that dreaming process you're describing at work is kind of twofold. One is as an organization, as a team, where are we going? Let's dream together. But there's also this individualization as well, going, okay, this person here really is passionate about this. How can I empower them? Because obviously in any team, you have different strengths and weaknesses and passions that build towards the greater mission. So I think to be able to say individually, so I think in our marriage, there's a dreaming together. Like, okay, what do we want for our marriage, for our family? Where are we going? And those big picture conversations. But then there's also the individual level. Tara, what are you dreaming of? Because the things that I'm pursuing sometimes don't necessarily have to do with you. I'm really wanting to do this and pursue this friendship or pursue this passion. And you getting on board with me and saying, okay, how can I help make that happen? Right? As a manager, right? Okay, this is your dream. What tools do you need to make this happen? Do you need some software? Do you need an assistant? Do you need, and I see that you're doing that at work. Okay, you have this dream. I'm going to help empower you to achieve it.
Right, as it aligns with the mission. Yes. And as you look at the family, you got to say, okay, does this dream align
with our mission,
with our goals and our mission as a family? Does the trajectory of this equal of where we ultimately are going?
So one of my biggest dreams in general, long time ago here, was to homeschool our kids too. So that was a massive, and again, it aligned with our marriage family dream for what we wanted for our family. But okay, what tools do you need? How do we actually implement this? How do we financially make this work? What tools do you need? Okay, I want to join this group. We need this. And you coming alongside me to say, okay, I want to see you succeed at this. And that's been an amazing gift. And I'm almost done with that dream is the weird part, but that was a long-term conversation each year of what do you want to do?
Yeah, and even doing this podcast is an element of a dream.
Yes, what do you want to do and how can we make it happen? And I think what's cool about the dreaming part too is dreaming for other people, right? I think we all want to focus on our own dreams. Like, this is what I want. And I think as a manager, I've seen you shift your focus to saying, hey, no, I want to see my team succeed in their dreams. It's not the church of Joe Buchanan, right? It's not, this is Joe Buchanan's kingdom. It's like, I want to see the people that I am in charge of, the people that I'm given to serve. I want to see them succeed, whether or not I do.
Right.
Even if that means them not staying with me, right?
Yeah.
Like moving on, like I want to empower them. And now in our marriage, you're not sending me off to move me on. But this idea of going, I want to make you a better person from being with me.
But our kids, we are.
Yes. Oh, goodness. You have to remind me of that.
Yeah. I mean, we're launching them and wanting to empower them. But I think
you can launch your kids, don't launch your wife.
I think, I wonder, I've often thought about this, like in marriage, what attracts people to each other the most when they're in those early, just met, get into dating? It typically is the dreams and passions of the other person.
Yeah.
You talk for hours on the phone because you're sharing an equal passion or you're equally desired toward a dream or toward something you want to accomplish. And then somewhere along the way, you get into a job that you kind of got into or you're into and you've been doing it for a long time, or this has happened, you've raised the kids and you're not talking about dreaming anymore. You're not talking about the passion. And I think that's a great conversation to be able to have, to sit down and say, hey, what are you dreaming? And sometimes that's a reigniting of a previous dream. And sometimes completely different things will come to the surface.
Well, this goes back to the previous D, which was the door open. So I think there's times that one or both of us can have kind of like a dream that we're thinking about, but we don't have that opportunity to share it, right? It's never a good time. Or versus if you have that door open and every week we're sitting down together, hey, what's going on? Then we have that opening to say, hey, by the way, I've really been thinking, what if we blah, 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 or what if or how I was thinking. So I think by having those availability in the door open, you have the time to say, yeah, what are you dreaming of? And what can we do to help each other to achieve that? So I appreciate that about Joe being a manager is dreaming with your team and dreaming for your team members. Both. I think that they're both good.
I think one important question that has to be asked is, are you dreaming together regularly? And when is the last time you dreamed together? Because if I don't know the dreams of my team, I can't help them as it pertains to our mission. And the same is true with you, Tara, my wife. If I don't know what your dreams and aspirations are, whether you've shared them with me or I just haven't asked or I'm not listening, whatever the deal is, if I don't know that, I can't help you accomplish those things. And so it's very important for me to at least have those conversations. That could be a date night. That could be you and I meet over coffee every morning. It could be any of those things, but setting aside some time to say, hey, what are your dreams and aspirations? And the funny thing is, if that's the question that hasn't been asked in a while, there may be some surprising answers there.
Well, that's where with dreaming, as much as everyone has their own like personal dreams, like, oh, when I was a kid, I used to dream. But really, there's something about dreaming together that's more fun. Even if you have these dreams that like never, come to fruition or they're unrealistic, there is joy, I think, in our marriage to still say, this is something that we want to do together or for you, dreaming for another person, right? I want to see you achieve this and I want to see us get to this place. So yeah, dreaming together is a great way to be a good manager of your marriage.
So that's the fourth D. The fifth D, this was another one that we stretched to get the D in there, but to develop a support system. Basically have a support system. And with my job in particular, it's really easy to be a good leader because I have an amazing support system. I really do. I can call my boss anytime, day or night.
Door open, right?
he's remote from me. In other words, he works in a different city, but he's always available for the conversation. And I love the way that my boss leads because he leads in a way of not telling me what to do, not even recommending or suggesting, just asking the right questions to get me thinking in the right direction. So there are times when I want to say, just tell me what to do. But he really loves the process of the exercise of working those things out. Okay, have you thought about this? what happens when you do this? Have you, because he has an open door policy. You know, when you look at these D's, he's an incredible leader. And so it's easier for me to step into good leadership and to be a good leader because I am following or being led by an amazing leader as well.
Yeah, part of that like tangible support system is almost like if you join a large organization and in the employee handbook, whatever, is like a whole list of numbers, right? Questions with your IT, call this. Questions about your benefits, call this. Questions about this, call this. And you realize, wow, there's all these people here to support me. If I have a question about this, I know who to call. And I think every manager, you know, you're not a silo in terms of just by yourself. You have to say, okay, when things get tough here, I have to have those numbers of who do I call in a crisis. When I make a mistake or I'm in a jam, that's such a key part of being a good manager.
Well, and I think it's not even just my boss because he's a great leader, but I have other managers.
Yes.
I have mentors in my life. Absolutely. I try to have someone who's 10 years down the road from me and someone who I'm 10 years down the road from. And just having that balance is really, really good. But I think in a marriage where it gets really challenging is we don't often have those support systems.
We do it all on our own.
We think we have to.
Right.
Number one, we don't want anyone to know we're struggling in our marriage. We don't want anyone to know that we have problems and things aren't perfect and we have conflict and all of those things. And then we are, as humans in this culture of day and time, not as like we used to be, where neighbors would sit out on their porches and talk till
the community.
Right. There was a huge community benefit. The community benefit isn't there anymore. You have to be intentional to get into a group at church, a Bible study, a friend group. You have to be intentional. You have to go find a mentor. A mentor probably is not going to find you. You have to go find the mentor. Right.
It's easy to feel like you're doing it all on your own. Now, obviously, a marriage is being built on Jesus. That is, in a sense, the ultimate foundation of support system, right? So like, we're not really on our own, even if physically speaking, we're separated from other people. We're never completely on our own. So I think developing your support system also means developing our own relationship with God. That's going to help infuse that truth and that grace that we need every day to be a good leader. Like on your own, you don't have all the truth and grace and wisdom and discernment that you need to do things well at your job or at home. So I think for a support system, that is part of that support system, right? Like the ultimate support system. But then in that process, I think God does bring into our lives people to figuratively hold our hands and say, okay, I can see you're going through a hard time. Here's some help. And just knowing you have help is so great. Sometimes, you have all those numbers in the employee handbook and you may never call any of those people, right?
Yeah.
But they're there. And I think there's a certain peace that comes to our marriage going, hey, maybe we don't need to reach out to somebody right now, but we know these are the people in our corner that if a crisis happened, we could call. And I think that's a very key part of developing that support system is because you never know something happens, who do you call? And you just need immediate support and help.
I think the temptation too is to feel like we have it all figured out. As husbands. And Carey Newolf, early on, he's one of the guys that we leaned into his podcast and teaching from a leadership standpoint of learning how to be a good leader. And one of the more sobering statements that I read was, if you are not being corrected at least once every 2 weeks, you are not growing. And from a standpoint that I wanted to get it all right, I felt like I didn't want to fail as a leader. So being corrected is a reflection of failing. Being corrected as a husband could be seen
extremely, deflating, right?
As a reflection of failure, when really it's not. We cannot grow because I can't know today what I know without learning it at some point.
That correction comes from, ideally comes from a support system.
Yes.
And again, I say support system, meaning not correction from your enemies necessarily, or correction from people who are just on the street laughing at you. It's correction for the people that most want to see you succeed. For example, your boss doesn't want you to fail and burn the whole place down. He's the one, that correction is couched in a place of, I want to see you succeed. I want to see the mission succeed. So it's wise for a wise manager to listen to that kind of correction. Yeah,
it's kind of like when we did marriage ministry. We saw the power of a support system and how many of those couples were able to share things, vulnerable things, maybe even for the very first time, but they were able to share in an environment that was supportive, where they knew leadership there was for them and rooting for them and wanting their marriages to succeed. And so they were able to share more vulnerably, sometimes even for maybe the very first time they had shared some of those things. But when you get couples together that are able to be vulnerable and in a supportive environment, you see incredible growth happen, because all of a sudden you realize I'm not alone. The things I'm experiencing, I can relate to, are relatable to what others are experiencing.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is you could have a support system and you could have all the people in the world to call, but if you don't, not vulnerable, it doesn't count. If every time your boss calls and says, how are things going, you're like, great, just great, I'm fine, 25 times in a row, then he really can't help you.
Yeah.
He really can't give support until you say, well, actually, this is where I'm struggling, or this is where I'm feeling discouraged, or this is where I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. Help. Then you get the help. But I think so many times in our marriages, we want to say, great, great, fine. And there's people around who can support us and who can help us. But if we keep saying great, great, fine, fine, then we don't find that growth we need. So it's developing a support system. And then I think it's like accessing it.
And an answer of great or fine shuts the conversation down too. So someone that could offer help that's right there, that may have the answer I'm looking for. Number one, they don't even know I need help. And number two, I'm communicating, I don't really want your help, by just simply saying everything's great. Everything's
have to be in this together.
Yeah.
And hopefully, a teeny tiny part of your support system could be listening to podcasts. We cannot be your entire support system, but it is nice in our current society that we do have access to a lot of resources to strengthen our marriages. Now, I really highly recommend real people that can talk to you in a real space, because there's something very powerful in that. But I think if you have more resources, and that includes podcasts that encourage you, that's part of your support system of, say, reminding you the truth, reminding you where you want to go, and how you can improve.
Yeah, basically helping to define reality and having an open door policy. Yeah, would love to hear from you. Would love to know your thoughts. Maybe you're a manager and you have an aspect of skill set that's worked really well that we didn't even cover. Would love to hear from you. You can email us anytime, Tara, T-A-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com. If you have further questions about this, maybe you're in a marriage where you want more of this kind of leadership. You want to execute more of this kind of leadership. Email us. Let us know. We don't have all the answers, but we'd love to listen. Tara, T-A-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com.
I think our door's open.
Yeah.
Figuratively speaking. The email box is open.
Yeah.
At least for that much.
But that's not a D. So does that...
Let's see. DM me. There we go.
DM. All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your 5-star rating. It does make a huge difference. Helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for your review. If you're thinking great things, many times, I know Tara and you and I talk about reviewing other podcasts since we do a podcast, and how many times we've often said to each other, hey, that podcast is awesome. And we'll look at each other and be like, did you leave a review? Reviews make a huge difference. So thank you for doing that. And of course, thank you for reaching out. Would love to know what makes you smile about your husband or wife, or if you've got any questions at all. Just want to talk things out. Tara, T-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com.
Great job, manager.
We'll see you again next week.